Welcome back to V8 Creative, and on this episode we're back to spannering and building the 200 mile an hour hypercar known as the Ultima RS. Yes, we're back in the Dean Den and normal service has been resumed. Lots of spannering, which I'm sure many of you have been missing over the Christmas period. So on this episode, the focus is going to be on finalising that rear clamshell and putting it back on the car. Now, what does that entail? Well, I'll be fitting more grills. What I'll be doing is also applying a heat cloth, which Ultima provide as an upgrade. And what this does is protect that beautiful fiberglass and gel coat from the heat that radiates from that huge 6.2 litre V8 nestling just behind you in the engine bay. So, without further ado, let's just get spannering. Now what you've been seeing me do here is put the mesh on the reverse of the bodywork. Use zip ties, tiny little zip ties, and these dowels, I found them for model making. I use them for stirring sticks, but they're superb at pulling in these meshes. And then what I did on the top and the bottom on the reverse side, put silicone sealant, and then also put 3 sealant blobs here in the center to keep everything in place. Now this mesh is slightly under tension, but when it's dry and we take these off, it's never gonna move, I promise you. It will never move. Anyway, let's move on to the other side.
I'm driving, you're smiling, just really doing nothing. That's the thing I like about you. On the highway, it's our way, Route 66, and we keep on driving. We just do what we wanna do. Yeah, no, nothing's complicated with you. Hey, playing songs on the radio, sing along to the words that we don't know how. Brings out the wildness. Let's just run away. Yeah, I could drive the whole along. Being with you is like being on the rodeo highways. Brings out the wildness. I got a little crush on you. You say that I'm crazy. It's just the way that I get every time that I am with you. Your laughter takes me to heaven. I just wanna make you repeat it and repeat it again. Yeah, you make the sky so blue. No, nothing's complicated with you. Hey, playing songs on the radio, sing along to the words that we don't know how. Brings out the wildness. Let's just run away. Yeah, I could drive the whole along. Being with you is like being on the rodeo highways. Brings out the wildness. I got a little crush on you. On the highway, it's our way, Route 66, and we keep on driving. We just do what we wanna do. Hey, playing songs on the radio, sing along to the words that we don't know how. Brings out the wildness. Let's just run away. Yeah, I could drive the whole along. Being with you is like being on the rodeo highways. Brings out the wildness. I got a little crush on you. Ooh, I got a little crush on you. I got a little crush on you. I got a little crush on you. I got a little crush on you.
Sorry for laughing. This is about the 6th take of me trying to do this little scene. Anyway, I've left the grills curing overnight, so now we're ready to take off the ties, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the end result is going to look superb. Let's have a look. There we go. And yep, That looks pretty good. That ain't gonna come off, I tell you. Right, so there's that one done. Let's move along and do this one as well. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I'm just checking. Right. There we go. They look good. There was one thing I forgot to share with you when I actually bonded these grills in place, is what I did is these hexagonal shapes, I ensured they lined up perfectly with the top and bottom of these slits here. So they look spot on. Now that's a nice bit of kit that. Right, let's move on to some more grills. Right. This is a bit tight here. Yeah, that looks pretty good, that. Look at that. That actually, that's really nice. Right, let's move over. Right, one last one to go. One. Two. Three. They look lovely. Interlude time, yes! And now we are going to talk about heat management or thermal management if you're a physicist. Now, the reason why thermal management is so important is it's to ensure you have optimum performance, to ensure you have a comfortable driving environment, don't forget that, and also what you do is you protect components within the car itself. And there are three areas which we focus on when we talk about thermal efficiency and thermal management. Firstly, it's making sure that LS3 is at its optimum operating temperature. Now, why is this important? Well, clearly, you don't want to cook the engine because that's not good. Secondly, you don't want to run it too cold. And there's a very good reason, and that reason is oil. Now, oil operates in a range of temperatures. That oil provides optimum lubrication, it provides some cooling, which people don't realise, and also what it does is its viscosity is at the right range so it gets into every crevice in that machine, in that V8. Oh, I love V8s, I just love them. So to do this, we obviously have a thermostat in the engine, like any other internal combustion engine. But Ultima has specifically put a huge amount of effort into that cooling system you'd have seen me install a few episodes ago. I can't remember which episode it is. So we have that multi-core aluminium rad that is actually housed in a duct which forces air, as this RS is thrashing itself down the road, so it forces the air through that small opening, and the hot air then exits over the roof of the car after it is expelled through that huge hole in the front canopy. So that's how this engine is kept cool while it's in motion. But when it's stationary, we have to rely on those two huge electric fans that are operated by the ECU, and they suck air through that matrix when the coolant temperature is sensed to go over a specific threshold. Secondly, what we need to do is ensure that we minimize the radiated heat from the engine, but what we want to do is maximize the temperature of those exhaust gases. And that may sound pretty tricky, but the reason we want to do that is, one, we want to reduce under canopy temperatures to protect the actual components in there, and also ensure that the air being pulled into the engine is as cool as possible. Because cooler air is denser, denser air has more oxygen per cubic centimetre, or whatever you want to measure it in. So where does most heat come from with the engine bay? It's the headers and the cats and the exhaust boxes. So what I've done is I've opted for an exhaust coating which is based on a ceramic technology. Now this is pretty amazing, and I'll go into more depth with this when I actually fit the exhaust, but it is quite an expensive upgrade, but it can reduce basically the radiated heat from an exhaust up to about 30 or 40%, which is huge when you're looking at quite a confined engine compartment as in the RS. But just as importantly, all that heat that isn't being radiated is being kept within those exhaust gases. So those exhaust gases are less dense, they're moving more quickly, and what that means is when that exhaust valve opens, all the waste gases within that cylinder are scavenged, as they call it, actually pulled out very rapidly by basically the low pressure being caused by those exhaust gases rushing over the cats and out the rear end. So part 3, and that's what we're going to focus on today, is even though we've reduced all that radiated heat, it can still get pretty toasty under there. So what we want to do is to protect components. And one component in particular is that beautiful rear clamshell. And Ultima offer an upgrade. It's not expensive, but what it uses is a heat reflective cloth. Now this comes in a roll, and I'll show you in a minute, and it is basically a fiberglass weaved cloth in the back. It's very flexible, and what that does is that provides some insulation between the heat in that sort of rear engine bay and the canopy, but the most protection comes from sort of an impregnation of aluminium on the other side of that cloth. And what that is that's highly reflective. And the clue is in the name, because it reflects that thermal energy, so pushes it back down. And it is incredibly effective at reducing the surface temperature on that rear clamshell. So here's our kit as supplied by Ultima. Here is our cloth, our heat cloth. And on the back you can see this is like a fiberglass weave, and then on the front it's reflective with this sort of aluminium very thin sheet that's impregnated onto the cloth. Next we have this tape here, which is for covering the edges, and it's self-adhesive on the back. And then we have 2 tins of high temperature contact adhesive. I think this is going to be very sticky. But anyway, you know I don't like stickiness, but let's go and get some paper. I think I'm going to use some Christmas wrapping paper and do the templates. Okay. Right, I nicked some wrapping paper from the missus, don't tell her. Right, now, the first template sits here, so it's this shape here, and it lines up the top there. So let's just give this a go. I think that's the easiest thing to do. That's tacky now. Straighten this out. Wow. Okay, that is pretty good actually, quite pleased with that. Actually that's pretty easy. Okay, so now I just got to do the other edges and then we're done. Then I can put it on the car.
Leaving this place, the sun's about to break. You're riding shotgun. The feeling we chase, I'm wide awake. Take me away now. 'Cause I won't go down the same old path again now. No, I've been running out of air, so let me catch my breath. Feeling I've got's making me crazy. If I'm having a good time, don't you blame me. Yeah, this feeling I've got's making me crazy, making me crazy. So I'm just gonna drive, drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive. Wherever we go, we're taking control. The future is ours now. The road never ends. It's me and my friends. These are the good times. And I'm feeling like I could go on forever. And I've been running out of air, so let me catch my breath. Feeling I've got's making me crazy. If I'm having a good time, don't you blame me. Yeah, this feeling I've got's making me crazy, making me crazy. So I'm just gonna drive, drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive. I'm just gonna drive, drive, drive.
I'm not doing anything, I'm just supporting it, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Now what I've got to
Chop
do
this on there.
is
Line it up.
okay,
Is it lined up at the bottom? It's a bit over to the right, I think. That's good enough.
There you go. There we go. Thank you. Great sigh, and that wasn't that bad actually. If anything, this is the hardest bit to do. The other bits are sort of, oh, I don't know about that. Anyway, we won't worry about that just yet. So, tips on how to do this. It was a good idea, Jeff, thank you, to put glue up the centre line first to get this in place. It also helped having the misses, helped just position it. And then, even though Ultima don't say, I use this little roller just to do the edges, which I think is quite good. And pressing it down with a cloth really works well as well. So, that's this piece done. Now, what shall I do next? Shall I do the back piece or the two side pieces? Because there's four main pieces. There's a piece that goes here, a piece that goes here, and a piece that goes at the back. I'm going to do the back piece, I think, because that looks a bit easier. I just want an easy bit to do now. Anyway, let's get on to it. Now, that was sticky. I don't think my fingers are ever going to be the same again. But the whole rear clamshell now is protected with this heat cloth, and it's worth the investment in time. As I said, not particularly expensive upgrade, but well worth it to protect the gel coat and fiberglass from the heat of that LS3. Clearly, this clamshell's got to go back on the RS chassis, and I'll do that this weekend when I get the help from Rich the Lift. He's working at the moment, so I can't show you that in this episode. So the next episode, that will be 30. Can you believe that? 30 episodes. What I'm going to be doing is taking the center section off. I need to take the doors off, which is going to be a bit scary, but take the center section off, put it upside down. It's going to need painting. It needs something bonding in for the dashboard, which I'll show you next time. But until then, keep smiling, enjoy your spannering, and remember, creativity is intelligence having fun.